It's Chelsa Messenger with Picks and Parlays. College football is officially back. We've got a nice little deal, 15% off the entire site at picksandparlays.net if you use the code SCC. We're talking K-State, Oklahoma. The Sooners are huge favorites in this one. Minus 28.5. The total is 59.5. K-State, of course, beating Oklahoma last season 38-31. So we've got Nick from the Insider's Room. Nick, do you smell some revenge in this one?
I do. I know Oklahoma has a new quarterback, but that's nothing new for them. This is in the last 4 years, they've had a new quarterback starting each year. But the rest of the team, most of the rest of the team returns from last year. And so K-State, it comes into this one as an underdog of 20 plus points to the Sooners for a third straight year. The Sooners, they're starting freshman quarterback Spencer Rattler, and he's going to be trying to help his team win a 17th straight at home. K-State, it's 0-1 against the spread and straight up. It lost 35-31 to Arkansas State as a 15.5-point favorite last week. Skylar Thompson, he ran for 4 touchdowns versus the Sooners last year, but he took a couple of massive hits last week, and he actually missed a few plays and sat out when he returned. Coach Chris Kleiman, he noted to reporters afterwards that Thompson appeared to be shaken up and less mobile after the injury. And so the Wildcats are also going to be without center Noah Johnson, free safety Jerron McPherson, and safety Wayne Jones. They're all lost to injury last week in that upset to the Red Wolves. And Johnson's entire offensive line is brand new this year. All 5 starters, they're brand new as well. So Oklahoma, it hasn't played in 2 weeks because last week it had a COVID issue. And it did have a COVID issue when it did play Missouri State, but it still won 48-0. 50 players sat out in that game, so it only had access to 69. But Rattler dominated Missouri State. He finished with 290 yards and 4 touchdowns, and that was just in 30 minutes. And so Oklahoma has averaged nearly a 20-point margin of victory during its 16-game home win streak. The Wildcats, as you mentioned earlier, I mean, they got the upset win last year. They've actually done well in this series over the last few years. They've covered in 7 of their last 9 when catching 20 or more points. But I think the circumstances are definitely different this time around. I like Rattler. I love the Sooners defense to have a big day versus this patchwork Wildcats offensive line. Revenge, it's a dish best served cold. And after last year's humiliating defeat, I think the stage is set for an epic blowout finally here for the Sooners at home. So that's going to be my play. I know it's a lot of points, but I don't have any faith whatsoever in K-State's offense or defense. I do like Thompson, but I just think that he's in over his head here. That injury last week isn't helping out anything. And so that's my play.
It needs to be a dish served freezing cold for them to cover minus 28.5. I know that's one of my goals is to not bet on some of these big spreads because that's the worst is sitting through the fourth quarter and hoping, there's not going to be a backdoor cover. But yeah, there's been a bit of a COVID problem with Oklahoma, as you mentioned. I wouldn't say little. 50 players sitting out is quite a few. But, 48-0 win over Missouri State should clear up those concerns, I suppose. But I would take a look at the over in this one as well because Oklahoma does one thing and they light up the scoreboard most every game. But the problem is their defense usually doesn't make stops either. So I'd maybe take a look at the over as well. It's not my official play, but now that I'm looking at it, I kind of like it.
Right. And you throw in that revenge factor. You figure that the home team's going to want to run up that score. And then you look at that defense and offense there. It's definitely shaky. I mean, they were a 15.5-point favorite, K-State, and they lost outright. So yeah, this is a team that's struggling in all 3 phases. And so for me, yeah, I would definitely lean to the over. I expect Oklahoma to keep the foot on the gas from start to finish. And I think that will also translate into a big win for them here.
At least Oklahoma won't have the wagon to tip over because wasn't that the game where the wagon tipped over for Oklahoma?
What a
I don't
disaster.
know if you remember that.
I do. I absolutely remember that.
So at least I don't think they'll be on the field. So that's one positive thing for Oklahoma. That's going to do it for our college football talk here on Picks and Parlays. Good stuff from Nick from the Insider's Room. Nick, thanks for joining us.